Barbed-Wire. Invented by Lucien B. Smith in 1867 and patented by Joseph F. Glyden in 1874 out of Illinois, its primary function was to keep livestock in the fields. World War I to inflict casualties on opposing sides, and then things kind of went a little sideways, didn't it? Welcome to Wrestling Through the Ages. Happy Friday, wrestling fans. Let's get right to the meat and potatoes. Barbed wire matches. There's more variations and alterations than you can shake a stick at. But when and how did we get to this point? Well, when wrestling spilled out of the ring during its infancy, matches would end in a disqualification, a no contest, or countout, leaving the fans pissed off. So chicken wire fencing was used to keep the fight inside the ropes and to make sure no one would escape during the gnarliest of bouts. Barbed wire was wrapped around the top of the cage. I believe France were putting on chicken coop matches in the 1920s and 1930s with barbed wire atop the cage, but I was unsuccessful finding news clippings of any sort and only forum-based acknowledgement that they took place. If you can find any information on these French chicken coop matches from this time period, please let me know in the comments below or contact me personally. All that being said, let's go with what we know for certain. The very first documented barbed wire match was a tag bout in Corpus Christi, Texas. Maurice Vachon and partner Joe Christie lost to the team of Iron Stomach, Pepper Gomez, and Louis Martinez in a 2 out of 3 falls tag team barbed wire match on March 13, 1957. This was for the roughest and toughest tag team trophy, and there are no pictures available to use, so use your imagination. Next, we have a 2 out of 3 falls barbed wire fence cage match on July 11 of 1958. With El Medico defeating the grandfather of hardcore wrestling, Wild Bull Curry, for Houston Wrestling. This is the first photo where barbed wire is present in a wrestling match. There are several chicken wire matches from the 1940s to the 1980s, and at times, barbed wire would be added to the top of the fence. Sadly, lots of these matches were never filmed, and if they were, chances are they would never air on TV due to the blood and violence that came with this style of wrestling. And on top of that, film was stupid expensive. So more often than not, those taped matches have new matches taped over the original footage, being lost in time forever. But let us continue. January 30th, 1959, Danny McShane pins Dizzy Davis in a no time limit, no DQ Texas Death barbed wire fence match for Houston Wrestling. 2 more matches took place that year. El Enfermero won a 2 out of 3 falls match on August 7 against Danny McShane. James J. Braddock served as special referee. George Bolas defeated Jack O'Brien in a no DQ bout in Dallas, Texas on August 25th. 2 years would pass until our next sharp encounter. Dory Dixon beat up Duke Kiyomuka for the World Negro Heavyweight Championship on January 3rd of 1961. Not a big deal nowadays. With segregation still very prominent at the time, this match drew in a huge crowd of 4,500 people at the Sportatorium. 10 years went by, and on December 30th of 1971, the first German death barbed wire match took place with Waldo von Erich besting Dominic DeNucci in a near 20-minute match. July 24, 1974, Jackie Fargo and a mustached Jerry Lawler battled it out in a cattle fence cage match. The turnbuckles were wrapped in barbed wire, predating FMW barbed wire corners by 2 decades. Fargo wins via pinfall. October 17, 1975, Don Kent defeats Hank James for Big Time Wrestling out of Boston. This match type was making its run across the states. People knew what to expect. Blood, violence, no mercy, and no escape. It worked, selling 9 out of 10 times. Then the 1980s rolled around. Barbed wire matches are about to go through their first boom stage. 1981, Lawler defeats Sweet Brown Sugar in Memphis. March 29, 1982, Lawler beat Dirty Dutch Mantel for the AWA Southern Heavyweight title. Bill Dundee defeats Sugar via DQ on June 28. August 21st, we get our first Lights Out Tag Team Barbed Wire match. Dusty Rhodes and the Funker emerged victorious, pinning the team of Kendo, Nagasaki, and King Tonga. I have to montage most of the 80s, or we will be here a while, so let's start firing these off. Sorry everyone, but I got to double time the remainder of the 1980s just to speed things along. And the last barbed wire match of 1989 is Japan's first barbed wire match for promotion that's only been around for 4 months. FMW's Battle Creation Tag Team Barbed Wire Last Man Standing Death Match with Tarzan Goto and founder Yushi Onita getting the win over Jerry Blayman and Mitsuhiro Matsunaga, winning by knockout. All cuts in this match were done the hard way. Now, with Japan joining the fold, these matches are about to get intensely multiplied and change in ways we could never have imagined. Again, I can't cover them all, but I will try to include as many as possible. February 12 of 1990, the first Japanese barbed wire barricade match with Onita besting Masanobu Kurisu. March 13, 1990, Onita pins Beast the Barbarian and retains the WWA Brass Knuckles title in the first barbed wire street fight. Back in the States, a very young Steve Austin loses to his trainer, gentleman Chris Adams, on May 25th. Back in Japan, we get our first no-rope barbed wire current blast death match on August 4, Onita successfully knocking out Tarzan Goto. October 1st, we get our first female Joshi barbed wire street fight. Veteran wrestler Combat Toyota tag with Ryuben Amada, defeating the rough and tough team of Megumi Kudo and Yuki Morimatsu. I highly recommend this one. The Japanese Joshi wrestlers of these times were ferocious and at times terrifying to watch work. Onita and Goto defeated Mr. Pogo and Wildman Bull on December 5th. Over in Puerto Rico, Carlos Colon beat Dick Murdoch. May 6th of 91, Onita pins Pogo in a first and very brutal Mat Mine Explosion death match. Back in America, Cactus Jack gets his first exposure to the pokey substance when his barbed wire match with Eddie Gilbert ends in a no contest on May 18th. FMW Rock and Tosu hits hard, starting off the first barbed wire match tournament on August 17, which saw Onita winning the tourney. September 23rd, another first takes place. The first no-ropes barbed wire mesh current explosion match, with Onita defeating Goto via knockout. The first barbed match of 1992, controversial and legendary wrestler The Sheik loses to Onita on January 10. February 4, FMW No Ropes Cage Barbed Wire match with a team of Onita, Asako, and Goto defeating Big Titan, Boulder, and Sabu. A new promotion emerges, Wing, or Wrestling International New Generations, which was founded by two former FMW workers, Kazuyoshi Osako and Miki Ibaragi. We get our first Caribbean Wire tag match, and it's quite the match. The Headhunters defeated Iceman and Mitsuteru Tokuda. Over in Puerto Rico, Murdoch loses to Carlos Colon. This guy didn't like jobbing much, did he? April 5th of 1992, Mr. Pogo and Super Invader pin Mitsuteru Tokuda and Yokihiro Kanimura in a Caribbean barricade death match. Kanimura will become a legend of his own in the next years to come. Well, damn, I'm eating my own words. April 26, Carlos Colon jobs to Murdoch. My apologies, everyone. May 6 of 1992, the catastrophic barbed wire fire death match, the first of its kind, ended in a no contest. Onita, Goto, and Sabu escaped the blazing inferno by ditching out of the ring when things quickly got out of hand. Sadly, the Sheik, Sabu's uncle, was trapped inside the ring for a little too long and suffered third-degree burns to 80% of his body. Sabu mentioned he grabbed his uncle in efforts to help him, and the Sheik's skin came right off upon applying a headlock. The WWA Martial Arts title exchanged hands on June 6 when the Sheik defeated Onita in a much safer no-ropes barbed wire match during FMW's 92 Endless Battle. While over in the States, Smoky Mountain Wrestling put on a barbed wire cage match on August 8 of 1992, with the Fantastics, Bobby and Jack Fulton, winning the Smoky Mountain Wrestling tag titles over the Heavenly Bodies at the time, Stan Lane and Tom Pritchard. September 1st, FMW puts on their successful Battle of Blood and Sweat show, with Onita winning the WWA Martial Arts title from Tiger Jeet Singh during a no-ropes barbed wire current mine explosion match. Wing and FMW put on pay-per-views with FMW's Southern War and Wing's New Enemy Incoming. These two promotions were going head-to-head in attempts to outshine one another. Wing put on their first Puerto Rico-style scramble bunkhouse barbed wire match with Kevin Sullivan and Kim Duke defeating Jimmy Backlund and the soon-to-be deathmatch veteran Mitsuhiro Matsunaga. FMW put on their World's Strongest Street Fight Tag League, but Wing answers back with December's Wing, We Love Wing, as well as Wing, Are You Ready? Bleeding into the new year. Over in Briscoe, Canada, January 1993 saw a very young Chris Jericho wrestle for Rocky Mountain Pro Wrestling in his first barbed wire match, defeating Beef Wellington at the Victoria Community Club in Calgary, Alberta. Back in Japan, FMW set up Rika 93 show. Both Japanese promotions were taking on a fantastic cold-like fan base and were pumping out some insane match types. And here we are. The famous barbed wire current blast super large time bomb death match between legend Terry Funk and his disciple Atsushi Onita at FMW's 4th anniversary show. What a match. Onita defeated Terry Funk, but with true compassion for his mentor, ran back in the ring to protect the Funker from the blast. 41,000 fans packed the Kawasaki Stadium that night on May 5th of 1993. The Headhunters won the Wing World Tag titles during Wing Danger Road, pinning Miguel Perez and Yukihiro Kanimura. July 24, FMW Doran in Kitakyoshu Bay Square. Listen to how long this is. No ropes, barbed wire, barricade, mat, current, land, mine, explosion, double hell death match. Yep, I would have bought a ticket for that event. Anyway, Onita pummeled Mr. Pogo in 13 minutes. 18 days later, the vacant FMW Brass Knuckles heavyweight title goes to Onita when he defeated Mr. Pogo in another first. Barbed wire current mine prison ring time bomb deathmatch inside Hankyu Nishi Nomiya Stadium. Oriental Pro Wrestling put on a barbed wire net death match with Kazuhiko Matsuzaki defeating Geyser on October 11 of 1993. December 2nd, Gito and Jado defeated Nobutaka Araya and Shoji Nakamaki during Wing's Born to be Wing. Jesus. Their pay-per-view names are horrendous. A new challenger arrives. Pro Wrestling Crusaders was created by Shunji and George Takano. Now we end 1993 with our first joint promotion deathmatch. FMW teamed with Michinoku Pro for a show at the beautiful Korakuen Hall, with Team Onita defeating Team Pogo on December 26 of 1993. Alright, 1994 everyone.
And what a fantastic year of matches it will be, 8-Bit Tom. Did you know 1994 was the first year International Wrestling Association put on shows, even out of your favorite venue, Korakuen Hall?
Thank you for that tidbit of information, Trent. Yes, as Trent just mentioned, IWA Japan was the next promotion starting up, putting on deathmatch tournaments, and raising the bar like the previous important promotions which were crucial to the barbed wire history. FMW Senfu 94 was a barbed wire tag tournament that took place from January 7 and bleeding deep into the 18th, which resulted in Big Titan and the Gladiator defeating Onita and Katsutoshi Niyama for the FMW Brass Knuckles Tag Team title in a no-ropes barbed wire death match. Back in the States, indie promotion Championship Wrestling from Indiana hosted their first barbed wire death match, with Danny Anderson defeating Mike Samples in front of 100 people. Back over in Japan, Wing put on their pay-per-view called, Jesus Christ, Wing, We Are Wing. No shit, Wing. Jason the Terrible and Leatherface defeated the Headhunters inside beautiful Korakuen Hall. Freddy Krueger beat up the Winger in a 13-minute barbed wire chain match, both taking place on February 11. FMW answers back literally the following day on the 12th with their first Texas Tornado No Ropes Barbed Wire Street Fight Tag League, ending on the 25th with Onita and Goto besting Goro Tsurumi and Mr. Pogo inside Korakuen Hall. You can see how this would be an issue with both promotions having to basically share the same venue often. And back in frisky Frigidaire weather, Alberta, we have Canadian Rocky Mountain Wrestling put on two barbed wire matches on the 13th and 16th of April, with both Steve Wild and Jason the Terrible switching up W's. The first one in Calgary, Alberta, and the second place taking part inside Sioux Tina Reserve. Japan's smaller promotion, Pro Wrestling Crusaders, put on their first barbed wire mesh max chain death match on March 17th, with promoter Shunji Takano putting himself over Uchu Power X. FMW also had their 5th anniversary show 2 days later on May 5th, with Onita jobbing to Japanese legend Genichiro Tenryu in a no-ropes barbed wire cage death match. A fantastic bout.
And 2 days later, IWA would have their first ever barbed wire match in the form of a barbed wire base, making it the very first object wrapped in barbed wire stipulation, which would open up the floodgates in many years to come.
Let's stick to the script, Trent.
I'm just so excited!
Yes, and that show took place inside Korakuen Hall for a live TV taping, and the fans loved IWA immediately. Korakuen Hall was the mecca for deathmatch promotions, and each promotion would battle to have that venue. Imagine if Madison Square Garden had to choose between 5 top promotions on a weekly basis. June 25th, Huracan Castillo defeats Dirty Dutch Mantel. Tommy Rich pinned Lawler for USWA on July 11 in Memphis. And then pow! ECW Heatwave 1994 takes place. The Public Enemy take on and defeat the Funk Brothers, Dory and Terry. ECW are going to be at the forefront of barbed wire matches in the following years to come. Atsushi Onita would have his first retirement tournament pay-per-view during FMW Atsushi Onita Memorial Retirement Tour Final Chapter July Series Tag League from July 17 to July 31st, which ended with Onita and Matsunaga defeating Hisakatsu Oya and Mr. Pogo for the FMW Brass Knuckles Tag Belts in a no-ropes barbed wire street fight double hell death match inside Yokohama Bunka Gym. IWA filled up Korakuen Hall when the Headhunters defeated Johnny Gomez and Shoji Nakamaki in a barbed wire board death match during the IWA Tag League Match First Champion Decision League Block A Danger Road. Alright, and here we are, the next big important piece of barbed wire history. The very first no ropes barbed wire current sea mine explosion double hell match. They had to have this match inside Jingu Pool in order to avoid lawsuits and to keep a safe distance from the fans. The competitors were brought to the ring via dinghies, and the team of Onita, Katsutoshi Niyama, and Mr. Ganasuki defeated Hideki Hosaka, Mr. Pogo, and the Gladiator during Onita's Memorial Retirement Tour Final Chapter September Series. I highly recommend this match. In October, IWA Japan raised the bar further again with the first barbed wire boards glass window crush death match, with the Headhunters defeating Hiroshi Ono and Shoji Nakamaki inside Korakuen Hall. Michinoko Pro Eternal Flame TV show had Onita winning over Great Sasuke in a barbed wire time bomb exploding landmine match. The following month on the 13th, IWA puts on a hair versus hair no ropes barbed wire fire death match. Hiroshi Ono and Terry Funk beat the team of Nobutaka Araya and Shoji Nakamaki during IWA Japan Texas Bronco New Coming. Now that's a pay-per-view name. And we finally close off 1994 with a barbed wire board spike nail death match during IWA Japan's opening year 94 final battle, with Leatherface and original Leatherface losing to Hiroshi Ono and Shoji Nakamaki. I know this was a lot of information to take in, and thank you for sticking around till the end. Yet again, thanks for the ongoing support, and I'll see you next time for another episode of Wrestling Through the Ages.